Well, I had a talk with Dorian about this the other day. We've been staying in closer contact. I got him real psyched up.
Oh, do you?
I said, look, Dorian, there has never been a single bodybuilder, including myself, that has ever reached the absolute upper limit dictated by his genetic potential. Why can I say that with absolute certainty? Because in order to do so, you literally have to train fucking perfectly. You get my point?
Yeah.
And no one has ever done that, including me, even though I understood the general theory advanced by Jones, and it is valid. What I didn't understand when I was training for competition was the practical application. I took that thing as an arbitrary prescription and just plugged it in and stayed with it.
Mm-hmm.
Not striving to regulate the volume and frequency over a period of time. I said, look, Dorian, why don't you pride yourself on being radical? Why don't you become the first already super advanced bodybuilder to take a Mr. Olympia physique and take it to the absolute zenith? He started getting really excited.
Yeah.
You know how these guys are. Frank, you're right. I am radical. All right, Dorian. You're the right kind of guy. I had no doubt when I said that. I knew that would whet his appetite.
Well, it's got to be a nice feather in your cap to advise the fellow who goes on to win the Olympia in '92.
You better believe it. He's even more receptive now.
Yeah. Well, how could he not be? Every time I interview him, I always, asked him about the going back to that day with you in the gym. He always just, starts raving about it.
Well, it's curious because he is kind of a low-key guy.
Mm-hmm.
He never said much about all that, even when he left here that many months ago.
Yeah.
I talked to him till I was blue in the face, almost like I'm doing now. But he's the kind of guy who doesn't respond much. You don't really know if it's clicking or not.
Yeah.
Then the next thing I hear, the guy wins Mr. Olympia, and he's telling all the interviewers that he did take my advice and he cut back to one set per exercise, and it really did work.
Yeah.
So I was delighted. I honestly did not think that he would win the contest.
Really?
No, I just didn't think he had the kind of physique. And just some of the political stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
Although I didn't take into account perhaps the fact that it was in Europe, and I know how they are over there.
Well, he looked good. Actually, the truth of the matter is I thought he looked better 2 weeks before. They had pictures you saw the picture of that lat spread?
Well, he just sent me about 30 of those from that same photo session.
Mm-hmm. He looked better at the bigger body weight.
I know. I said to him, Dorian, why in the hell didn't you compete at 260?
Yeah.
And he confessed. He said that the last 2 weeks he started losing weight and he couldn't control it. He didn't know what the hell. I guess he got so angry. I've seen other bodybuilders. My brother used to do that.
Really?
He would look great up until the last many days, and for some reason he couldn't control the loss of weight at that point. He would shrivel up, although Dorian didn't shrivel up.
No, far from, but
he still looks phenomenal.
But he just, look at that lat spread on those shots. I mean, from before, he just, no one could have stood next to him on stage with it. Just incredible. And if he can maintain that, which he should, next time around, he should be a repeat champion, I think.
You have one more minute?
Yeah, I have plenty of time.
I want to read my, I just finished chapter 4, but it's chapter 3, actually, in which I talk about my advice to Dorian.
Oh, great. Let's hear it.
I think 1 month after the 1992 Mr. Olympia, which according to all reports he won easily, Dorian was back in Gold's Gym during a stop on an exhibition tour. Convinced that the abbreviated system had helped him gain more muscle and win the Mr. Olympia, he asked me for further advice on how he could continue with even greater progress for the 1993 Mr. Olympia. My advice to Dorian was delivered in the form of a challenge, and I quote myself. I don't believe, Dorian, that there has ever been a top bodybuilder that developed to the absolute upper limit allowed by his genetic potential. Why, Dorian? Because none, including myself, had ever fully understood or properly applied the general theory of scientific bodybuilding exercise. If I had made one major mistake years ago while training for competition, it was that despite having been the arch advocate of lesser training, I was still overtraining. i.e., training too long and too frequently. While Arthur Jones contributed enormously to our knowledge with his general theory that exercise must be intense, brief, and infrequent, it is apparent to me now that he wasn't clear on practical application. He had issued what, in essence, was intended as a surefire prescription for everyone at all time: train the entire body 3 times a week. What I have come to understand much better over the last 2 years as a result of training and keeping records on over 200 individuals is just how demanding high-intensity training really is. I have come to understand that when an individual is training properly, i.e. training intensely enough to stimulate growth, and is neither training too long nor too frequently to prevent growth, that he should be witnessing progress, if not every single workout, then at least on a very regular basis. The question, Dorian, is how brief and infrequent should exercise be? I understand you pride yourself on being radical. Well, Dorian, be radical. Break away entirely from tradition and find out for yourself how little training is really required. Arthur Jones, by the way, John, said years ago that we've been asking the wrong question all these years. The question should not have been how much exercise do we need, but how little do we require.
Yeah, true, very true.
Remember that one. And on here. So what if you find yourself, Dorian, spending only 12 to 15 minutes in the gym every 5 days? To hell with what others have thought or done. More muscle is what you're after. Set a new and higher standard of bodybuilding excellence. Become the first Mr. Olympia to improve dramatically on an already heavily muscled physique. Be the first to reach the upper limit allowed by his genetic potential.
That's good.
Yeah. Then I finish up saying many bodybuilders sell themselves short, erroneously attributing their lack of progress to a poverty of the requisite genetic traits. Instead of to their counterproductive training practices, they give up training entirely. Don't make the same mistake. Don't believe that all training theories have some validity and then waste precious years of your life frantically trying one after the other. Just as there is and can be only one set of valid principles explaining the physiology of the human body, so there can be and is only one valid theory, i.e. one set of principles of productive bodybuilding exercise.